Today I have on the phone with me Andrew Pape-Salmon, a professional engineer and senior energy specialist with RDH Building Engineering. Andrew is an experienced leader in the implementation of energy-efficient technologies, designs, and management practices for buildings, equipment, and communities. He is an expert in government policy and utility demand-side measures that facilitate market transformation, leading to improved energy efficiency for buildings, equipment, and systems. He has performed extensive technical, market, economic, policy, and regulatory analysis related to energy efficiency. Prior to joining RDH, Andrew was a director of the Energy Efficiency Branch of the BC Ministry of Energy and Mines. Additionally, Andrew fulfilled the role of Manager of Energy Efficiency and Community Energy Solutions and the Senior Policy Advisor, Energy Efficiency. Andrew is the second speaker in the BCSEA's, that's the BC Sustainable Energy Association's Energy and the Next Federal Election Speaker Series. On Monday, November 17th, between 7 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. at the First Metropolitan United Church, Andrew will highlight examples of super efficient new building construction and deep energy retrofits in the Pacific Northwest region. He will also profile government policy best practices in the region, setting examples that could be enhanced through federal government policy. Andrew, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Could you give us, I know I said a little bit about it, but could you give us a little thumbnail of what you will be speaking about in your presentation?
You bet. I'm going to be speaking about a trend that's happening across the Pacific Northwest towards developing energy policies and also in the construction industry some design practices to lead to eliminating the production of carbon from buildings. So we're quite close to being able to build an office building or an apartment building that has a zero footprint with respect to producing greenhouse gas emissions. And a number of governments in our region are advancing policies to make that a reality for the mainstream. So the region, through a group called the Pacific Northwest Economic Region, it's an organization based in Seattle, is embarking on the development of a roadmap to net zero construction and deep energy retrofits of buildings in 2030. And zero carbon buildings are a reality today. We have an example, the Bullitt Center in Seattle, named after the Bullitt Foundation. It's an ecological philanthropy organization led by Dennis Hayes, who's the founder of Earth Day, the Earth Day concept many years ago. And it's the greenest office building in the world. We have houses being constructed in Victoria that are based on what's called the Passive House Standard that originated in Saskatchewan, was exported over to Europe and popularized over there, and now is coming back here. More importantly, though, 70% of buildings that exist today will be in place in 2030, and we need to find a way to improve affordability of existing buildings, and we have examples of that in Vancouver, a 13-story condominium that was transformed to reduce energy by 20% at the time of a building envelope renewal. So it was a building that was being repaired anyway for structural reasons and aesthetic reasons, and with careful design considerations, the energy consumption, the electric baseboards that heat the units, the residential condominium units, went down by 65%. We need to replicate that hundreds of times in Victoria, Greater Victoria, and Southwest British Columbia in order to improve affordability and lower the carbon footprint. And I will speak about government policy quite a bit next Monday because that's fundamentally one of the key things that drives this innovation. Also, industry leadership. We're seeing it with an organization called Architecture 2030 and the Cascadia Green Building Council and the Canadian Passive House Institute, among others, BOMA, Building Owners and Managers Association of BC. They're driving market transformation. So I will speak about that, and then both provincial, federal, and also local government policy, which I can get into in a minute if we have the time.
Yeah, we could go there. We do have an election coming up. Is there any candidates that are promoting like the LEED standard or anything like that going on in BC?
Well, in fact, it's interesting with LEED. There are buildings being constructed that are LEED certified that actually use a lot more energy than the buildings that I'm talking about. The LEED standard is a fantastic tool for informing the public about super buildings that go beyond the building code in terms of design practices. But the LEED standard, because it's identified as a silver, gold, platinum, it can actually hide the true energy use of the building. And so the Architecture 2030 organization that's based in Santa Fe and has been New Mexico and has been endorsed across North America by architects actually just puts the data out. How much energy does this building use per square meter? And my company was involved with the building in Portland. It's affordable housing. It's called the Ramona. It uses half of the energy per square foot or per square meter of an average building in the Pacific Northwest, and does it in a relatively straightforward, simple way. Just a little bit more detail or attention paid to the building envelope and how the construction occurs to reduce heat loss and to reduce something called thermal bridging, which is essentially little pieces of the building that take heat from the inside of the building and heat the outdoors. So, for example, with a standard house, thermal bridging would be the 2x6 lumber that is used for the wall. So you might have insulation between the 2x6 studs, but those studs, in fact, are the cause of a lot of heat loss through thermal bridging. So a little more attention to thermal bridging and blocking those bridges can go a long way. This building in Portland called the Ramona uses 19 kBTU per square foot, which is half, sorry about the units, it's imperial units. It uses half of the energy per square foot as an average Northwest building. And interestingly, it's a very affordable building. The construction cost was $127 per square foot, whereas many LEED buildings will cost $250. So this cost half the value, the cost of many LEED buildings. Anyway, you asked the question about the municipal election, and yes, there are several candidates talking about energy efficiency. I think it's great to talk about it and to adopt practices within municipal buildings to certify buildings as LEED or Architecture 2030 or to undertake deep retrofits. What's really missing in British Columbia is new policies, and the key one that I want to focus on is called energy benchmarking. And there's 11 cities in the United States that mandate in their bylaws that every year buildings over a certain size report on their energy use per square foot. And Seattle is one of those cities. Austin, Texas, San Francisco, Minneapolis are a few examples. New York City was the first one. Back in September of 2014, the City of Vancouver put forth a resolution to the Union of BC Municipalities requesting of the province the power for BC cities to do similar regulations to report so that building owners and managers would report on energy use. And that resolution passed. So now it's up to the province to give BC cities the power. So that would be a really good question to the municipal candidates, whether they support mandatory energy benchmarking of existing buildings and reporting to the city.
Yeah, and I find that very interesting that you're telling me that you guys are going above and beyond the LEED standard, which for our listeners stands for Leadership, Energy, and Environment Design. So I'll be at the speaker series on Monday, and so I'll be interesting to hear more about that. And yeah, I think that that will definitely be a question to put towards our council members. I don't know if we have any time before the election. It's coming up quick. So just to recap, your speech is going to be on November 17th at the First Metropolitan United Church at 932 Balmoral Road in Victoria. So that's between 7 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. And it's presented by the BC Sustainable Energy Association. Everyone's welcome, and I'm going to cap it off there. So thank you for joining me, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.